What's going on, guys? Jacob Umansky here, and today I'm excited to introduce my new signature virtual instrument library, UmanskyBass, by Submission Audio. So up until a little while ago, I never actually programmed bass before for obvious reasons, but I actually found the process really enjoyable. We put so much time and effort into capturing the articulations and tones. It's really just kind of scary. It's literally just me in a box. So today, I'm gonna be showing you how I, a bass player, program my bass parts. So yeah, let's get into it. So the track we're gonna use today is called Traveler by my two good friends, Joseph Anidjar and Josh Dale and Victoria. And what's cool about the song is that I actually used the bass that UmanskyBass was sampled with on this track. So this is the intro. So let's take a look at some articulations. So right here is our first example of key switching and force keying, this pop. So let's open up the MIDI. So if you just hear this note by itself now, it's just gonna be the open G. Right? So essentially what's gonna happen is that when you plug in a G, the plugin's gonna say, okay, so this is the first time this note appears on the bass, which is gonna be our open G. But in the song, I play it on the 5th fret of the D string. So we're gonna go all the way up here, go to our key switching map, and find D string in our force keys. So that's gonna be E8. So we'll plug in E8, right? Completely changes the timbre. So now what we're gonna do is change the articulation. So we're gonna go to our key switch map again and look for popping, right? So we're gonna find our pop at F#2, scroll all the way down here, boom, pop, beautiful. So this next section right here is actually a really cool example of force keying as well. Because if we mute the force key, it's played on the open D and the 1st fret of the D string, right? And that doesn't really sound the way I want it to. And since this whole passage is played on the A string, I can just go find my A string force key and just drag it out all the way out through the whole duration of that section. And so now you hear this really, really cool dead note. And so the way we would plug that in is we would go to our dead notes, right? And if you mute them, we just hear just E flat and its octave, right? Because that's where my hand will be placed on the fretboard. So now we go to our key switch map again and look up dead slap, right? So we plug that in, and then dead pop, right? And then this last fill is really similar. So if we mute all the key switching, we just have E flat and its octave, right? So we're gonna change it now to dead notes and then open pops. So now we're going to talk about 3 of my favorite things the plugin has to offer: the thumping articulations, the humanize knob, and the position knob. So let's listen to this section in full. So let's take a look at this position knob. So essentially what this is it acts as a virtual capo. So it just tells the instrument, hey, don't play any notes below a certain point. If we listen to it without that, it would sound like this. Now here's a little A-B for you. So that's position 0, and where I am is position 7. Right, so it's a lot rounder and a lot fuller, and it complements the guitars a lot better. So let's look at the humanize knob. So what this does is it acts as a velocity randomizer. So when you have a section like this where, you know, you're using 3 different fingers, instead of just having it all the same velocity and sounding maybe a bit more robotic, it randomizes everything and you get a lot more that human aspect to it. Right, whereas if you're playing maybe some crazy breakdown with chugs, really fast kick drum patterns, you might set your position to machine, where you just want to sound like a complete lethal weapon. But we don't want to sound like that, so we're going to go to bassist. And there's also a human aspect, which is kind of just a little less variation than the bassist option. So now let's go into the thumping. So the mechanics behind thumping are essentially just down, up, pop, pop. Right, so you have these 3 fingers going on. So if we look at our key switching menu, we have thump, which is your downstroke, double thump, which is your upstroke, double pop, which is your index finger, and then middle finger. So this pattern is gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have down, up, pop, pop, down, up, pop, down, up, pop, pop, down, up, pop, pop. So it's actually not that hard to program these crazy patterns, but the one thing that you definitely want to keep an eye out for is your velocity. So what I've done here in the velocity is I have the first note of each grouping accented. So you get that down, up, pop, pop, down, up, pop, down, up, pop, right? So it accents the kick and it makes everything sound, you know, it adds variation to everything. So now the last thing we're going to talk about is this ridiculous fill that was way easier to program than it was to play live. So let's listen to this drum pattern. You have that da is just play wherever it is or program wherever it is on the fretboard. So here it's just A flat and it's octave. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna program an open pop and then we're gonna do dead slap, dead pop, dead slap. So the last thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to program realistic bends. So we're gonna go to this section, I'm just gonna call it the bass breakdown. And this section was actually really hard to program because you have to match the bends exactly with the guitars. And if you want to automate that, it can be kind of tricky, right? So the way I actually do that is I just go to my MIDI controller and I'll find those notes, right? So we'll have, right? And I'll just go. And then I'll just line them up wherever they go in the track, quantize them. And that's how you program bass as a bass player.